Welcome to That Mac Show, episode 15. iPad has cometh down from the mountain. How's everybody going out there today? This is E.T., a.k.a. Eric Timmer for That Mac Show. You can find us at www.thatmacshow.com. We're also on Twitter at That Mac Show. We're on YouTube, youtube.com. I think it's /user/That Mac Show. Lots of places you can find us. So today's show, we're gonna probably focus a little bit on this new device that Apple came out with, and the new device is the iPad, not the iSlate, not the iTablet, but the iPad. So, the name is really short and easy. It fits between iPhone, iPod, iPad. So you got the similarities in a little bit of alliteration going. iPhone, iPad, iPod. iPhone, iPad, iPod. So maybe that's why that they decided to go with this iPad instead of iSlate or i piece of flat plastic or whatever tablet you want to call it. But that's a name. We'll get used to it. No big deal. I mean, when iPod came out, it was kind of funky, iPod. Okay, I guess it's like iMac, but it's a little pod to put all your songs in, your music in. But the name, not bad, I guess you could say. Not great. Some people wanted Apple to drop the I name, but, it does kind of identify Apple. So they might as well keep the ball rolling while they're successful with the I's in the first part of the name. But yeah. So let's look at the stats here. Look at the prices first before we hit the specs. The prices you will get for a Wi-Fi version, 16 gigabytes, $499, 32 gigabytes, $599, and 64 gigabytes, $699. Those will be available in 60 days. After about 90 days, you'll be able to get a Wi-Fi plus 3G enabled one. The low end started at $629 for 16 gigabytes. 32 gigabytes gets you $729. And 64 gigabytes will cost you $829. So it's pretty interesting that Apple actually went low on entry level. So $499 for a Wi-Fi enabled iPad, which I think is a pretty good deal for what you're getting. And we'll get into the specs a little bit, but low end Wi-Fi only $499, low end Wi-Fi plus 3G $629, high end $699 and $829 respectively. So not bad pricing, cheaper than most people expected, and myself included. I was thinking between between 500 and 1,000. Leaning toward the 1,000 side. So I guess, he came in within that range. And for an Apple product, you expect to pay a little premium. But I think he undercut a lot of people's predictions. So that's pretty good. He being Uncle Steve Jobs, and Apple Computer. So now let's look at a little bit of the specs inside this thing. First of all, it weighs about 1.5 pounds. Which is 0.68 kilograms for us international listeners. And the 3G Wi-Fi one weighs 1.6, which is 0.73 kilograms. Dimensions, height, 9.56 inches, width, 7.47, depth, 0.5, so half an inch, which is half an inch is equal to about 13.4 millimeters. The width, 7.47 inches, is equal to 189.7 millimeters. And the height of 9.56 inches is equal to 242.8 millimeters for those who are challenged with the, the old English measuring system that we use in the U.S. Okay, so the display is a 9.7-inch diagonal LED backlit glossy widescreen multi-touch display with IPS technology. Whew, that's a lot. A lot of adjectives. I wonder what I wonder how many committees it took to approve the order of the adjectives on that one. The resolution is 1024 by 768 pixels, 132 pixels per square inch PPI. What is it? Fingerprint resistant oleophobic coating. And supports multiple languages. Some of the languages are, European and Asian languages. Lots and lots. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to dig deeper into that. Wireless and cellular. We got Wi-Fi 802.11a, B, G, and N. Got Bluetooth 2.1 plus EDR technology. So the latest Bluetooth spec. The Wi-Fi and 3G model has a whole bunch of stuff in here. All the radios are UMTS, SDPA, 850, 1900, 2100 megahertz, and the GSM/Edge is 850, 900, 1800, and 1900 megahertz. Data only, Wi-Fi 802.11 up to N, and of course Bluetooth, I said before. Location-based features, specs, or Wi-Fi, digital compass, assisted GPS only on the Wi-Fi 3G model, cellular only on the Wi-Fi 3G model. What comes in this box you'll be getting? An iPad, a dock connector to USB cable, 10-watt USB power adapter, and documentation. Okay, now let's listen to the processor. The processor is a 1 gigahertz Apple A4 custom design, high performance, low power system on a chip processor. So it's the first processor that Apple's actually putting out, and they're naming it the A4. We'll probably get a little bit more information once the thing ships and people get to actually take it apart and kind of figure out what's going on. But there's a little bit more news later up in the podcast that'll shed a little bit more light on that. Sensors are accelerometer and ambient light sensor. Let's see. Plays back audio formats: AAC, MP3, Apple lossless, AIFF, and WAV. Has a user configurable maximum volume limit, which is good for all you people so we all don't end up deaf. And talked about probably in the podcast before that always set your iPod, iPhone, iPad limits in a very quiet area, so you know when you go on a noisy train or a noisy bus not to blast and blow out your ears. That's just a warning from That Mac Show. What do you call it? Service announcement. Consumer service announcement. CSA, I guess you call it. Something like that. Anyways, let's go to the TV and video output. It supports for 1024 by 768 pixels with a dock connector to VGA adapter, 576p and 480p with Apple component AV cable, 576i and 480i with Apple composite cable. It's pretty interesting. Kind of funky settings, I guess you could call it. It'll play H.264 video up to 720p, 30 frames per second. Main profile level 3.1 with AAC LC audio up to 160 kbps at 48 megahertz. Stereo audio in MP4, M4V, MP4, and .mov file formats. MPEG-4 video up to 2.5 Mbps. 640 by 480 pixels, 30 frames per second. Etc., etc. What else we got here? Anything interesting? Supposedly up to 10 hours of battery power on surfing the web, on Wi-Fi, watching video, or listening to music. Now, you know how it goes with battery life. Let's see how close Apple can get to the 10 hours. If it's like a notebook, you can cut that in half, so it'll be about 5 hours. But I wonder if Apple's actually being generous or being a little cautious with that estimate. And supposedly, when it's in sleep, it'll hibernate up to a month. Can charge via the power adapter or USB to the computer. Okay, inputs. We have a dock connector, 3.5 mm stereo headphone jack, built-in speakers, microphone,